What's up, YouTube? And welcome back to my channel. Today, you're here to learn about collar lizards, and I don't blame you. They're one of the most cutest and interactive reptiles in the hobby today. But you know what shocks me is that no one even knows about them. I just don't know how it's even like that. They're just so beautiful and amazing. But before we go into the care guide, let's go over some fun facts over them. Let's get right to it. So collar lizards get their name by the cool black bandings around their neck. They live up to 10 to 15 years in captivity with good care, and they reach around 10 to 14 inches in size. Males are typically larger than females. Did you know collar lizards are native to the United States? They can be found in states such as Arizona, California, Utah, and even in New Mexico. They live in desert-like plains that are grassy-like, and they prefer to hide in rocky areas. Collar lizards are one of the few reptiles that can run on their back legs, with speeds up to 4.5 meters a second. That's pretty fast. You know what's really fun about them? They come in different color patterns. There are 9 species total of collar lizards. Collar lizards are sexually dimorphic, and males are typically more colorful than the females depending on locality. Alright, we're gonna go over 5 categories in this care guide. Heating and UVB, collar lizard diet, husbandry and maintenance, cohabitation, handling and behavior. My name's Ryan. This is Lynx. Let's roll the tape. Heating and UVB for your collar lizards. Collar lizards are a desert type species, so they love it hot, and I'm talking like hot. So usually at the basking rock, brick, or whatever you may use, they usually seem to like it around 105 to 110 degrees seems to be about the sweet spot. I typically notice mine usually kind of retreat a little bit once it gets over 105. But that's what works for me. I usually measure my collared lizard's basking site with just a laser temp gun. For ambient temperatures, you want your temperatures really in just like the upper 70s or the 80s. Usually upper 70s seems to be my collared lizard's sweet spot. For my light bulbs, I just use a PAR 30 halogen floodlight for my basking site just to achieve my surface temp, and for my ambient site on the cooler side, I just use another lamp for like a normal house bulb of, let's say, like 29 watts. However, you don't have to use these light bulbs specifically, but this is what works really well for me for my collared lizards. Now, for nighttime temp drops, collared lizards don't require a light source at all during the night, but they do require a nighttime temp drop for sure to cool down. I mean, us humans need it too, right? I recommend a nighttime temp drop of upper 60s to lower 70s. More like room temperature seems to work great. Never let your temperatures drop below 65, and if you need help maintaining above that, you can use an under the tank heat mat or whatnot. UVB. Collar lizards do need UVB just like the majority of reptiles do. Without it, they can't produce the calcium throughout their bones, and then they'll get something called metabolic bone disease, for short MBD. And in short description, what MBD is when your bones start deforming, like your back structure will start deforming, or their elbows or spines or whatever, but it's not cool. And if you're going to keep these animals, please give them a source at UVB. When providing a UVB light source, please use a T5 singular tube HO tube. Please don't ever use a compact UVB bulb. These are actually just complete dog crap, and they just don't provide adequate UVB at all. I just don't honestly understand why pet stores even still sell them. These will not provide enough UVB for your collar lizards, so please don't use them. For UVB bulbs, I recommend the T5 Linear 10.0 Reptizoo from ZooMed or Arcadia's 14% UVB bulb. Also, importantly to note, T5 UVB bulbs need to be switched out every so often as they don't last forever. ZooMed's lifespan's like every 10 months and Arcadia's brand's every 12 months. I recommend putting a reminder sticker on the light fixture to date when to replace it. Alright, collar lizard diet. They are primarily insectivores, and they'll eat things such as crickets, superworms, dubia roaches, silkworms, hornworms, locusts, and they can eat some kale greens, but they don't really even touch those for me, so I mainly just feed them insectivores. Also, I do want to mention that you don't want to feed too many grubby worms, because grubby worms are really high in fat, and they're kind of like cheeseburgers to them as they are to us. So if they eat too many, then they get fat, and we want our lizards healthy, right? So please keep that in mind. Alright, supplementation. You can just use Repashy's Calcium Plus. I personally use this every feeding, and this works really well for me as it has vitamin A and vitamin D3, which is important essential vitamins for your collar lizards. From babies to sub-adults, I really feed my collar lizards daily, but my collar lizards, you can feed them daily too, but they really don't seem to eat daily for me, and it's usually like every other day. Alright, water and humidity for your collar lizard. So for humidity, I don't really check it that much. I honestly just leave it around like house humidity, which is around like 40% or so. And for water, I just provide a clean water dish at all times in the enclosure. But I do want to say that collar lizards, they actually don't really recognize still water. So ways that I provide water for them is by misting the cage every once in a while and, simulating rain. This is also a way to enrich them and give them some stimulation. But my favorite way of giving them hydration is actually using a syringe and just dripping some on their nose and watching them drink out of it. This is a really fun way to interact with your collar lizards, and it does build a bond with them, so I highly recommend you trying it out. Alright guys, enclosures. I recommend a front opening enclosure for your collar lizards. Minimum size I recommend is 18 by 36 by 18 Terras, or you want 2 foot by 4 foot by 2 foot tall. Bigger is always better as you'll get naturalistic behaviors out of them. For substrate, I recommend substrates as just wash play as they seem to really love this and they love digging, so that will give them something to dig into. For decorations, I recommend perches and logs and rocks as these collar lizards love to bask. Make sure to give them plenty of perching spots. As for plants, I'm sorry guys, there's not really much you can do for plants as these guys are monsters and they love to dig and uproot everything. But there is one plant that can survive the wrath for a little bit, and that's succulents, but they won't last too long, maybe like a couple of months. Warning. I do want to mention when you are making your collar lizards enclosures for like heavy bricks and rocks and logs, please make sure that they actually touch the bottom of the cage under the substrate, because these collar lizards do love to dig and they dig under it and that thing falls on them, they can get stuck and die, so please be very mindful of that. For maintenance on your collar lizards enclosures, clean the water dish, spot clean poop, and pick up dead bugs, because if you don't pick up the dead bugs or the poop, then they'll just sit there and that could eventually lead to parasites if you're not cleanly about it, and plus it'll stink. Do you really want stinky lizards? I know. Alright, handling and behavior. So handling your collar lizards is actually really easy, especially if they're captive bred. They're actually just really nice and calm most of the time. When you're reaching in your enclosure, don't reach above them. Collar lizards actually have like this third eye above their head, and they'll like sense like shadows above them that could startle them and freak them out. So always go underneath them and nicely coax them onto your hand. They will chill on your hand or your shoulder, and they're kind of like puppy dogs, and it's so cute when they do, but they will jump because they are active lizards, but they're pretty chill for the most part. So some behaviors you'll see from your collar lizards. Collar lizards will open and gape their mouths when they're basking, and they'll do this because reptiles don't have sweat glands, and when they get too warm, that's their method of cooling down. Another behavior you'll see in captivity is that collar lizards will like wiggle their tail back and forth, and I believe that's more of like an enticement that they're excited but they're about to hunt their prey, and it's actually really cute and fun to watch. Also, I want to mention when taming collar lizards, when you're handling them, usually just be calm and gentle with them. And another way of positive reinforcement to get them to like you is usually by feeding them treats right afterwards. Collar lizards do have intelligence and they will learn. When it comes to cohabitating your collar lizards, please, I never ever recommend more than one male in an enclosure, as males are territorial and will fight to the death, so please don't do that. But for sex ratios, I'll do like 1 male to 1 female or 1 male to 2 females. But the more collar lizards you have in an enclosure, please increase your enclosure size for them as they are very active and need the space. Alright guys, now we're in the last topic, brewmation. So just like a lot of desert reptiles, collar lizards do go through a brewmation period. It's just a natural occurrence and cycle in their habitat. When this happens, collar lizards would generally like kind of go to sleep and not eat or really move in captivity for maybe like 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a little bit longer. But don't fret, just keep it everything normal with your heat, lights, and just make sure they have a water dish at all times, and they'll eventually just snap right out of it. But honestly, I got a buddy who has collar lizards and they don't even do that ever, but mine just seem to do it. Collar lizards also do brewmate for breeding purposes, and in this video I will not be going over those topics or showing you how to brewmate because it can be a dangerous cycle for your lizard and it's not recommended for beginners at all. However, I am going to make a video eventually on it because I definitely want these amazing, gorgeous reptiles more out in the hobby and in captivity because they're just fantastic and they make the best pets ever, I swear. They're easy, they're just as beautiful and exciting. It's just like you can't go wrong, and these are one of the reptiles you can have in your collection that it's just like when somebody walks by and looks at them, it's just like a neck breaker because it's just so, you can't help but look at them, they're so lovely. If you guys got some value out of this video, please hit that smash like and subscribe button down below. My name's Ryan and you're watching Mighty Morphin Reptiles.